Have you ever met someone who felt like fate sent them straight into your soul, only to watch them slip away? There is a kind of love that doesn't promise forever. It doesn't ask for your hand, it doesn't offer comfort. It arrives like thunder, sudden, startling, impossible to ignore. It looks you in the eyes and without a word, it says, "You are not who you could be." It does not stay. It does not explain. But it leaves behind a tremor, a sacred discomfort, a fracture in the mask you've worn for too long. It is the kind of love that is not meant to complete you, but to confront you. The kind of connection that doesn't promise peace but provokes war with your smaller self. The moment that changes everything does not arrive with trumpets. It does not declare itself in grandeur. It arrives like a whisper in a storm. You do not always know it has happened until later. Until something mundane, a voice, a scent, a glance, brings you back to that precise second your inner world shifted. It's the kind of moment that passes unnoticed by the crowd, but leaves you marked, branded, changed. You still sit at the same desk, wear the same clothes, speak the same name, but everything is different because something in you awakened. A hunger you can't explain, a restlessness that won't be soothed. And suddenly the life that once felt safe now feels small. The dreams you shelved begin to whisper again, not loudly, but insistently. This is not because they offered you a new world. It's because they reminded you of your own. That one moment, that one soul became the spark. And now you can never unknow what you know. You can never unsee what they reflected. And that is the true beginning of transformation. Not to torment you, not to complete you, but to awaken something within you you had long forgotten. But there is something else. Something strange about moments like these. They are brief. They are quiet. They pass with barely a sound. And yet, they shift the entire axis of your life. One conversation, one gaze, one unspoken pull, the kind of moment that changes nothing, and yet changes everything. You walk away the same man, with the same name, in the same world, but something inside you has tilted, and it will not tilt back. Marcus Aurelius would not call this a tragedy. He would call it a trial, a sacred confrontation. Because the person you cannot have is not a punishment. They are a mirror, a spark, a forge. And your heartbreak, your yearning, is not about them. It is about you. And who you are still afraid to become. The gods rarely speak in thunder. More often they place a person in your path and hide your destiny behind their eyes. You think it's chemistry, you think it's romance, but it's neither. It's a summons disguised as desire, a message cloaked in flesh, because the gods knew you wouldn't chase your purpose unless it wore a face that made your heart race. And so they sent someone who looked like love, but was really revelation. They weren't sent to stay, they were sent to point, not with words, but with presence. They turned your head so your soul would follow. They arrived to unearth your unrest, to show you that what you called stability was silence, that what you called peace was avoidance. And when they left, they did not take anything from you. They left everything behind, inside you, a path you can now see, a fire you can no longer put out. And the haunting question, now that they're gone, will you still walk toward what they revealed? There is no strength without fire. A life untouched by pain is a life untouched by power. The Stoics knew this, the gods knew this, so they do not send comfort, they send combustion. You were not placed here to be preserved, you were placed here to be provoked, to be broken open by the things that stir you, to be tested by the things that leave you aching, to be awakened by what you thought you could not survive. And when someone comes into your life and sets it ablaze, they are not a mistake. They are the match. the one who shows you what it means to burn for something true. A fire that strips away illusion. A fire that forces decision. A fire that does not destroy but defines. Because the truth is simple, you were never meant to stay the same. And if nothing ever scorches you, you'll never know what you're made of. Let this be the pain that changes everything. Let this be the fire that finally makes you. Marcus Aurelius believed that every event, every person, and every emotion is either a test of your character or a revelation of your potential. So when someone enters your life and sets your spirit ablaze, only to remain forever out of reach, it is not an error in destiny, it is destiny. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And every time you feel that ache, the kind that carves through the ribs like a divine hand, it is not punishment, it is precision. Every time you reach and cannot hold, you are being pulled toward yourself. Every time they turn away, the gods are turning you inward. Pain is not a problem to escape, but a mirror to study. And Marcus would agree, what confronts you constructs you. So what if this person, this impossibility, is the very fire heaven placed in your path, not to warm your heart, but to burn away the parts of you that refuse to evolve, not so you could chase them, but so you could chase what they awaken, the unshaped courage, the silenced calling, the virtues buried beneath comfort. They were not a mistake. They were a forge. There is a voice you've ignored for years, a whisper behind your routines, a restlessness behind your smile. It spoke in quiet moments, when the room went silent, when the night stretched long, when you caught your own eyes in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. But you dismissed it, because it asked hard things, because it pointed to a version of yourself that demanded discomfort, demanded fire, so you buried it beneath obligation. You drowned it in distraction, but then they arrived. And with a single conversation, with one glance, they said the same thing that voice had always said. You were meant for more. They didn't speak it aloud, they didn't need to, because your soul remembered. And now, you can no longer pretend. They did not give you a new voice. They gave volume to the one you silenced. The question is not, why did they awaken me? The question is, why did I wait so long to listen? Consider Livia. At 29, she had a career, a fiancé, and a life that looked perfect on paper, but felt like a slow death. Then she met Cassian, a sculptor, wild, restless, alive. In his presence, something ancient stirred, a version of herself she hadn't seen since youth, before the duties, before the caution. She remembered the girl who dreamed in brushstrokes, who saw poetry in old stones, who once believed that art could be salvation. They spoke for hours they never touched, and yet her soul caught fire. But Cassian was married, and soon he was gone. Livia felt shattered, but the Stoic does not collapse beneath pain, she interrogates it. What did he reflect? What inner ember did he awaken? And how many times had she looked away from that same fire, burning quietly inside her? So Livia ended her engagement. She left the known. She moved to a coastal village and let her hands rediscover what her heart had always known. She painted, she wrote, she wept, and with each act she returned, not to Cassian, but to herself. He wasn't her destiny, he was her demonstration. Every time she dipped her brush into color, it was not him she summoned, it was the life she betrayed to survive. The girl who once whispered, "There must be more than this." And every morning, as she picked up the brush again, she answered, "There is always a war between the man you have become and the man you were meant to be." Most days you silence it with routine, with comfort, with pretending. But when someone walks into your life and strikes a match to your soul, that war becomes impossible to ignore. You feel torn, confused, angry. Not because of them, but because of what they reveal. They expose the distance between your current life and your unlived one. They show you the dreams you buried, the courage you shelved, the hunger you labeled as inconvenient. They don't hand you clarity, they hand you conflict. And in that internal unrest, you are faced with a choice. Remain who you've been, or become who you were always meant to be. This is not heartbreak. This is your reckoning. And if you listen closely, beneath the ache, you'll hear the sound of chains breaking. Not theirs, yours. There are forces within you that have no name, only direction. The Stoics called it logos, the divine reason pulsing through all things. But even Marcus knew reason alone is not what awakens a man. Something else must stir the soul. That something is mythic, archetypal, ancient. There is a fire within you, what the ancients might call thumos, the spirited part of your being. Not emotion, not logic, but the force that rises in battle, in birth, in rebirth. And when someone walks into your life and leaves you breathless, what they stir is not romance. They stir thumos, they stir memory of a self you have not yet become. They are not a partner, they are a symbol. Their gaze is not affection, it is invocation. They carry not answers, but questions your soul must answer in action. Who are you when no one is watching? What virtues lie dormant beneath your practiced face? What greatness waits in the furnace of your restraint? They do not speak these things, they do not need to, because they are not here to be understood. They are here to be decoded, like dreams, like omens, like sacred messages in human skin. They represent the God within you knocking, and if you have the courage to open the door, you will not meet that person. You will meet yourself. You see, the Stoic does not beg the universe for what it withholds. He thanks it for revealing who he is still capable of becoming. The person you can't have is not a soulmate. They are a soul mirror. They reflect the courage you silenced, the passion you buried beneath duty, the wildness you were trained to fear. Every time you admired them, you glimpsed yourself. Every time you envied their fire, you ignored your own. Every time you felt that longing, it was not for them. It was for the version of you that their presence unveiled. Marcus Aurelius never speaks of romantic destiny. He speaks of logos, the divine order written into pain. So that ache in your chest, that sense of being unraveled in someone's presence, it is not chaos, it is a call, a summons, a quiet uprising. How many times have you watched someone speak boldly while you stayed silent? How often have you praised another's strength while dismissing your own? This time, don't. This time, act. Let admiration become embodiment. Let what you see in them become what you develop in yourself. Not through grand gestures, but through quiet repetition. Not for validation, but for transformation. Imagine a boardroom, 10 people seated, each waiting to speak. The loudest voices dominate, the cleverest phrases get nods, but there is one man, silent. He's not timid. He's listening. And then, finally, he speaks, slow, clear, decisive. And the room shifts. Not because of volume, but because of presence. Now imagine you're watching that man, admiring his certainty, feeling your own words stuck in your throat. You go home and tell yourself, he's just more confident. But what if that confidence was yours, waiting to be claimed? How many times have you watched others embody your unrealized potential? How many times have you labeled it envy when it was really recognition? This is not about romance, it's about resonance. It's about seeing in another what you refuse to own in yourself. And the question is not, why can't I be like them? It is, why haven't I become what I already am? Closure is not found in their words, it is found in your actions. You will wait forever if you wait for them to explain. You will stay stuck if you believe they owe you peace. The Stoics did not wait, they acted. Every time you check your phone, hoping for a message that never comes, ask yourself, what am I still avoiding? Every time you fantasize about their return, ask, what part of me have I not yet returned to? Closure is not a conversation, it is a decision. To no longer beg the past to speak, to no longer worship what has walked away, to stop looking outward and start walking inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So waste no more time hoping they will free you. Free yourself. Write down what you saw in them. Their bravery, their laughter, their light. Then ask yourself, where in my life am I hiding that same energy? Where have I traded clarity for comfort? Where have I dulled my edge to blend in with a world that fears sharpness? And more importantly, what would it look like to reclaim it? You do not need them. You need the fire they mirrored. You need the discipline their chaos stirred. You need the version of yourself that their presence dared to remember. So reclaim your courage not once, but every time you stand when it would be easier to shrink. Reclaim your wildness, not in rebellion, but in ritual. Reclaim your voice, not to be heard, but to speak truth. Every time you rise with purpose, you become. Every time you face your fear, you return. Every time you act as though the gods are watching, you honor not just their reflection, but your own rebirth. And that, Marcus would say, is the rhythm of becoming, not in grand acts, but in daily defiance of the smaller self. And now, take action. Philosophy means nothing without practice, so start with a simple vow, taken not once, but every morning. Today, I will embody what I once envied. Each morning, write down one virtue they reflected. Not their name, not the memory, just the essence. Courage, depth, laughter, stillness, fire. Then ask, where will I live this today? Who will I be when no one is watching? And at night, reflect, not on what you felt, but on what you did. Did you hesitate where they would have moved? Did you speak when you once would have stayed silent? The Stoics did not wait to feel strong. They practiced until strength became their nature. So make this your discipline, to stop becoming smaller because they are gone, and to become greater because they arrived at all. Let every day be a ritual, let every choice be a vow, and let your becoming be the only answer you ever needed. This is what Marcus meant when he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So don't curse the distance, don't idolize the connection, don't mourn what never stayed, transform it. Every time you think of them, think of what they illuminated. Every time you feel the pull, channel it into power. Every time you ache, let it remind you there is more work to do. If they embodied freedom, let that freedom live through your actions. If they lived boldly, let boldness mark your days. If they walked with fire, let that flame burn in your resolve. And if they walked away, release them. Not with bitterness, but with the quiet strength of one who understands. They did not come to complete you. They came to confront you with who you could become. They came not as lovers, but as thresholds, not to stay, but to awaken. So now, every moment you choose courage, every time you act in integrity, every breath you take in defiance of the lesser self, you carry their light forward. Not as a shadow of what was, but as the architect of what will be. There was a gate. You stood before it. You felt the wind shift. You saw the threshold. And for a moment, you almost walked through. You almost became the man who no longer waited. You almost chose discomfort over delay. You almost let go of the roles others handed you and stepped into the one written in your blood. But you hesitated. You looked back. And by the time you turned forward again, they were gone. But the gate, it never moved. It is still there, silent, patient, and demanding. This is the truth few dare to admit. They did not close the door. You did. And now you must decide, will you walk through it anyway? Not because they beckon you, but because the man you're meant to become waits on the other side. Aurelius knew that pain, especially the pain of unfulfilled love, is one of life's sharpest sizzles. But the stone it strikes is your soul. And from each fracture, something stronger begins to form. Every crack becomes an opening. Every ache becomes a question. Every unanswered longing becomes a doorway to self-mastery. The gods are not breaking you, they are reshaping you. They are sculpting someone you do not yet recognize, but were always meant to become. Let that truth become your compass. So the next time your heart breaks for someone you cannot hold, do not ask, why did they leave? Ask, what strength do I now have no choice but to develop? What discipline have I long delayed that this pain now demands? What part of me was asleep until they walked away? That is the Stoic way. Not to retreat from the pain, but to rise through it. Again, again, and again. So here you are, wounded, yes, but wiser. Not empty, reborn. They came like lightning, but what they struck was not meant to stay. It was meant to reveal. And now what remains is yours. Your fire, your path, your power. Because the gods do not send you what you want. They send you what you're ready to awaken. And sometimes that awakening looks like loss. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like the moment you break and realize you are still standing. They didn't come to love you, they came to show you how to love yourself enough to change. So walk forward, not in vengeance, not in grief, but in stillness. With each step, remember, you are not what was taken, you are what is left. And what is left is everything you need to rise. And again, and again. And maybe, just maybe, that moment at the beginning was never about another person at all. Maybe it was always about you. The version of you who was ready to wake up. The part of you that needed to be shattered. The path that only revealed itself in their absence. So let us return